A majestic and imposing army in black armor, armed with swords and spears, surrounded the temple. Sheng Jiaoyu's heart pounded violently when she saw these cold-looking black-armored soldiers. They were all the personal guards of the Crown Prince, skilled in guarding and capturing fugitives. She had been strictly guarded by these unfeeling black-armored soldiers back then. Zhu Qingling got out of another carriage and walked over unhurriedly. When he clearly saw Sheng Qinyu's face, he was slightly surprised. He hadn't expected that the Crown Prince would bring him along this year. The young man's figure looked particularly thin and frail among this group of people. Fine snowflakes rested on his thick, dark and curled eyelashes. He lowered his eyes, looking cute and quiet from the side. On this winter snow day, it was rare to see him dressed as thinly as today. His slender and snow-white neck, and his face seemed even whiter than the snow. His eyes still looked a bit misty from just waking up. Following Zhu Qingling's gaze, Wei Jing quietly took a couple of glances. The young man frowned, and the corners of his eyes and the tip of his nose were slightly red. Wei Jing didn't like delicate and effeminate men very much. It seemed as if someone had bullied him. He always put on this lofty, cold, and yet frail appearance, as if deliberately trying to arouse sympathy. This morning, Sheng Qinyu's reluctance had already annoyed Wei Jing. Now, this pitiful look made him even more uncomfortable. Zhu Qingling took 2 steps forward and said in a familiar tone, "Young Master Sheng, are you cold?" Sheng Jiaoyu straightened the corners of her mouth and said, "Not cold." Zhu Qingling chuckled upon hearing this. Then he asked his attendant to bring a hand warmer and handed it to her. It was so delicate that it looked like something a girl would use. Sheng Jiaoyu felt that Zhu Qingling was humiliating her, but looking at his bright and smiling eyes, it didn't seem like a deliberate humiliation. She handed the hand warmer back and said, "No need." Wei Jing suddenly interrupted their conversation. His tone wasn't as gentle as usual. He called out the full name, "Sheng Qinyu, come with me." Her heart skipped a violent beat. Frightened and terrified, she buried her face and followed the man without a word. Stepping over the threshold of the temple, the sound of a bell ringing came from afar. A young monk led the 2 distinguished guests to the resting wing room. With a kind face and his hands clasped together, he said, "Please wait a moment, 2 benefactors." The abbot is still preaching scriptures in the Buddhist hall. After saying that, he clasped his hands together again and bowed, then withdrew from this simple wing room.